Hello, empowered warriors. In Chinese medicine, the liver channel is considered to be one of the most influential channels in the meridian system. And in the spirit of the season of the spring, which just became spring a week or so ago here in the Northern Hemisphere, I would love to discuss the liver and the intricacies of the liver channel with you, because what many people don't realize is a lot of their symptoms, a lot of things that they experience in their body, in their mind, in their spirit, has to do with the liver channel. So if you are somebody that struggles with allergies, with depression, with anger, with digestive issues, I am going to, and those are just a few of the symptoms, okay? I'm going to dive into this subject so that you can understand the importance of the liver channel and why it's so important, especially in the springtime, to nurture the liver channel as much as you possibly can. So, warriors, stay tuned. Welcome to the Empowered Warrior Podcast. My name is Angela Noel, and I am an intuitive coach, acupuncturist, and Chinese herbalist. This podcast is all about empowerment, meaning how you can maintain your personal power in order to have the best life beyond your imagination. An empowered warrior is someone who has the identity of a person who is healthy, radiant, and free from all suffering, and has the tools ready and available to move through life's obstacles with confidence, ease, and a sense of freedom. In this podcast, I bring over 16 years experience in Chinese medicine, countless years of self-development, and a passion for helping others find their personal power. I will be discussing just a few of my favorite topics regarding health from a Chinese medicine perspective, brain habits, and spirituality, so that you can quickly pave your pathway to freedom and be free from the chains that have kept you stuck. My intention with this podcast is to serve as a guide for warriors who want to form a healthy foundation of body, mind, and spirit, and sustain it by changing who they are being from the inside and having a stronger connection to their higher selves. My goal is to help students end the unnecessary suffering that they place on themselves by having poor health habits, negative thought loops, and a lack of self-worth. I am so happy that you're here. Hello, empowered warriors. So good to be back on the mic for this discussion on the liver. As you probably have already realized, a couple of weeks ago we had the spring equinox. Now, as I record this, it's April of 2021, so we here in New England are in the throes of spring, and as I look out the window from my office, I am seeing just tons of color. Everything's starting to turn super green. There are a ton of daffodils. There are these little, I forgot what they are, but these little blue flowers, not crocuses, but they're smaller and their leaves look like grasses. They're popping out of the ground. I want to say, no, I'm not even going to attempt to try to identify them on this podcast, because I think that I will probably miss the mark there. But how many of you out there just adore spring? Personally, spring was never really my favorite season back in the day. I was always kind of a winter baby. I was born in December and always loved wintertime. I know, I'm one of those strange people, but it was just my time. I always felt really connected to it. But I have to say, in probably the last 5 years or so, I have really come to love and admire spring. And I'm not a religious person, but I've come to also really admire the holiday of Easter, because of its representation, how it symbolizes spring, how it symbolizes new beginnings and starting with a clean slate, and all of the things that we often associate with spring. I have really just come to love it. So I'm curious to know, what is your favorite time of the year, and where do you feel, or what time of the year do you feel like you're just most connected? For many people, it's often the season associated with when they were born. So that may or may not be true for you. I know for me, I personally love all of the seasons. As I said before, loved winter. Fall was probably truly deep down like my favorite season. Winter I felt most connected with, and then spring and summer I am just learning to love more and more. So anyway, the reason why I am talking about I opened up this episode today with talking about the spring is because I wanted to talk about the seasonal aspect of spring in relation to the liver channel in Chinese medicine. So if you've been hanging around for a while, you probably already know that I was trained as an acupuncturist. I am trained in traditional Chinese medicine, and I had a practice in Boston for 12 years. Well, 10 years in Boston and another 3 years in my town in Massachusetts. And I recently shut everything down in the summer of 2020. And now I'm just working online. But Chinese medicine still just really is near and dear to my heart, and will always be a tool that I will use and appreciate when it comes to working with clients, helping them through their imbalances, because you may or may not already know this, but Chinese medicine is rooted in so much of its ideals is rooted in nature and balance. In fact, if you see the Taiji symbol, that black and white circle with the little wave that goes right down the middle, that is the ultimate representation of yin and yang. And there's some other episodes where I go into the Taiji symbol a little bit more. I can't remember which one specifically, but I did do an episode on the heart last summer. And there was another one I think I did more recently. Maybe it was the one on sex and pleasure, episode 35. Now that one I remember the episode number, but I invite you to review the concepts or look at the concepts of the basis of Chinese medicine, of yin and yang, and the Taiji symbol, because as you will soon discover after listening to this episode, everything is about balance. And you may know that already. You may know that when you're not in balance, that you often feel cruddy. You often don't feel good. You might notice physical symptoms or mental, emotional symptoms. Some people say that their hormones get out of whack when they get out of balance. And it can go on and on and on, can it? But I want to specifically address the liver today and talk about why it's important to take care of our liver, how the pathology shows up in particularly the spring, but around at all times of the year, and really just dive into the liver a little bit so that you have a further understanding of why it is so important to take care of our liver. And you might be listening and thinking, of course, it's important to take care of my liver, especially if you know, like if for example, maybe you've been to college, right? And there was always that joke I remember in college, like, oh my God, I must have killed 20,000 brain cells last night because of how much I had to drink. And you probably know the impact that activities such as alcohol have on our liver. But what many people don't realize is just the day-to-day stuff, how it can impact our liver and how it shows up. Like, how specifically does liver pathology show up and how does it affect our lives? So, I say this so many times, I say this all the time on this podcast, that I just feel there's no accidents. And I feel so amazingly lucky that I am living during this time, because there's more and more awareness. People are starting to really wake up and understand how freaking powerful we are and how powerful our bodies are in its innate ability to heal itself. And when you think about how some of these really old medicines, like Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, and some of the really old practices that come from Asia, like the martial arts, they've been around for, Chinese medicine is believed to be almost 4,000 years old, and we don't fully know exactly because that's only as far back as the texts go and the records go. It could be even older. But to know that this medicine is so wise and it's as old as it is pretty amazing, isn't it? And it really has had me stop dead in my tracks many, many times and wonder about how we as humans pride ourselves in being so advanced in our technology, and how if it's not new medicine, then it's not worthy medicine. And that, at least, I know that's not as true anymore, but that was often the message that I heard leading up to my decision to go to acupuncture school and beyond. And because of the path that I chose in my career to be a Chinese medicine practitioner, I often found myself in conversation with people who often had that skeptical look on their face when I told them I practiced Chinese medicine. And it's just because it's lack of familiarity. Can't necessarily say that I blame anybody for not knowing, but now we live in this time where I feel that there's this emergence of curiosity and desire to want to know how they can heal their body. And you're probably starting to recognize that even in yourself, even if it's not completely conscious, but you might find yourself looking through websites that have to do with alternative health or alternative ways of healing. I know that I get email, people reach out to me quite regularly asking for advice on how they can heal their body with herbs, like what herbs specifically should they use to help them through this, because you may have heard this, herbs are believed to be even more effective at healing our bodies than pharmaceuticals. And then the reason why is because pharmaceuticals are made in a lab and often mimic the chemical composition of plants. But then, of course, it's not actually the plant that you're working with, is it? When you're taking the medicine, you're taking something that, I'm not saying that anything is right or wrong, and just to be completely responsible here and transparent, I'm not recommending that you go out and take herbs only. Obviously, if you need to go to the emergency room, if you need to take medicine, that is what it's there for. But what I want to say about herbs is that when you take herbs, when you use herbs for medicinal purposes, you are getting the benefit of the entire plant. Whereas with pharmaceuticals, you're just getting a certain aspect of it. You're not getting the whole thing. Does that make sense? And why is that important? It is important because when you look at human beings, we are microcosms of the earth. We are part of the earth. We are part of the universe. When you look at it at night, there is a reason why so many of us are fascinated by the stars, by seeing planets in the sky. Many of you may look up at the sky at night and feel this connection. You might feel like you're home. And the reason why is because we are part of the universe. We are not separate from the universe. We are part of it. We are built. Our bodies are made of the same things that these planets are made out of. So ponder that for a second and just really let that sink in if this is a concept you've never heard of before, because I do feel that there is this aspect to humanity where we feel that we are separate from the world. We are separate from the planet. I'm not exactly sure why. I know there's like theories on it. It's not my wheelhouse to talk about that. I invite you to consider, just for the sake of this episode, because we are talking about the liver and we're talking about Chinese medicine and the seasons, to consider that we are one. We are one with the earth. How many times have you felt fatigue when you're sitting at your desk all day and then you go outside and take a walk and you instantly feel better? Now, why do you think that is? Maybe it's because connecting with Mother Earth, connecting to what is familiar with us, even though we don't fully realize it on the conscious level, is like being home to our bodies, and our bodies feel at ease. It calms our nervous system. I know I went a little off into a tangent there. Thank you for listening. But I do want to talk about the liver today because it is so important to understand liver pathology from a Chinese medicine standpoint when it comes to working with your health. And it will probably help you understand why you feel certain ways at certain times of the year. Why do you feel a certain way when it's springtime? And so let's dive in. So the liver in Chinese medicine is probably, all the channels are really important. If we didn't have, say we went without a channel, it would be noticeable if we didn't have a channel. If we didn't go, it's like going without an organ, right? So all the channels are really important, but the liver channel, when you think of the liver organ in the body, now if you look at a picture of the human anatomy of the torso, you'll notice that the liver occupies a lot of real estate in the body. It is a major organ. In Western medicine, the liver has the really important job of detoxing, of filtering out the blood, of cleaning the blood, of making sure that our bodies stay nice and clean. And that is just one thing that it does. And in Chinese medicine, the liver is in charge of basically moving. So we have this life force within us that is called qi. You've probably heard of qi before. And qi is just our life force. It's that energy that is within each and every one of us that keeps us alive. Now, in Chinese medicine, the liver is responsible for the smooth flow of qi throughout the body and throughout all of the channels. And there are 14 channels or meridians in the body. The thing about the liver is because it has this big responsibility. In Chinese medicine also, the liver is recognized for having a pretty major component in the blood. It moves qi and it also moves blood. And qi moves blood. And it also stores blood. And there's also this component with the liver, this emotional component with the liver where it houses the spirit. And one thing that happens because of the immensity of this organ, of this channel, is that the liver can get stuck really easily. And that can happen as a result of lifestyle, our diets, how well we're sleeping, how much we're exercising, how stagnant we are. And usually the attributes that have to do with lifestyle really highly infect the liver, probably more than other channels. And when I used to have my acupuncture practice and people would ask about the liver, the analogy I would use is, imagine you're sitting in traffic and If you live close to a major city, chances are traffic is something that's part of your reality, maybe aside from the last year. But traffic is kind of a common thing around here in the Boston metropolitan area. One thing that happens when you're sitting in traffic to many people is people start to get aggravated because they're like, I just want to get home, or I just want to get there already. But you're just stuck in traffic, and there's this feeling of impatience and irritability that shows up as a result of sitting in traffic. It's the same thing with the liver. So the liver really wants to do its job. It really wants to do the right thing. But when it gets impeded, it doesn't like that very much. And every channel has an associated emotional state or emotion. And for the liver, the emotion is anger. When you're sitting in that traffic jam and you're noticing irritability, that is an emotion that's associated with anger, isn't it? So people who tend to get angry very easily or irritable very easily often have liver pathology. And as a practitioner, I can hear the irritability and I can hear the anger in people's voices. In fact, when diagnosing patients, it's not just a matter of the symptoms that they share with you and how they're feeling, but so much of diagnosing is being an observer to your patients using your 5 senses. So it's not just a matter of the symptoms that they share, but also what do their voices sound like? What is their skin tone? Is their voice really loud and kind of angry sounding, or just loud and maybe gritty? Or is it kind of a whisper? Does it sound meek? Is their skin tone, is it robust, or is it ruddy? Is it pale? What color is it? And there's so many interesting things. Looking at the fingernails, looking at the toenails, looking at skin tone. Getting back to the liver, a lot of people don't realize that the liver is behind so many of the symptoms that we often see in the springtime. And it's often behind a lot of symptoms in general, but when we think of spring, oftentimes we think of the lungs, don't we? Because the lungs, a lot of people have seasonal allergies, and seasonal allergies can happen in the springtime. But what a lot of people don't realize is that because it's the season of the liver, oftentimes these allergic reactions or these allergic symptoms that we're getting are liver pathology oriented, not necessarily all lung. And yes, if the liver is out of balance, that can affect the balance of the lungs. That is true. Like, everything's connected. It's not like we're, these systems are separate. But I want to just go into that a little bit so that you have a deeper understanding of why it's so important to treat the liver. And if you're in the springtime, that is, and if you're somebody that gets allergies, why it's so important to start thinking about the allergies before allergy season starts. Right? Let's dive into that a little bit. So, case study. Many years ago, I had this patient with horrible allergies. I mean, some of the worst allergies I've ever seen in my clinical practice. And she would come in when she started coming in, she was dreadfully ill. I mean, I can't remember the specifics because it's been many, many years ago. I no longer have her file, but she was really sick. Okay. So when you think about like really bad hay fever, not being able to breathe, lots and lots of congestion, no taste, no sense of smell, no taste, anything. She came in, she got some relief when she started coming in the spring, but she decided after I talked to her, and she had her allergy symptoms under control. It was as summer, spring turned into summer. She was starting to feel better. I said, look, next year, I want you to come and start seeing me in January. We'll get you on a plan. will start working on your system and get you really strong so that when March, April roll around, you're ready. You're armed. Your body is strong. And she was one of those people who got so sick, she's like, I'm willing to do anything it takes. She did that. She started coming in January, right after the new year. And she came, I think, like twice a week. And I worked on her immune system. She was on herbs. We really, really dialed into her diet. And when it came time for allergy season, she was allergy free. She was feeling great. And granted, she was one of those people. She was super, super committed. Like, she wanted this so badly for herself that she was willing to do all the things. So I remember too, she was married to somebody who, oftentimes the people in our lives, right? When we change ourselves, I talk about this a lot, right? When we start to change and grow and evolve and do really great things for ourselves, oftentimes the people in our lives feel left out and they have a hard time with these changes. So I remember her husband often would challenge her and say, what do you mean you're not gonna go and have you're not gonna have cheese anymore? Because cheese, basically, dairy in general, is like insta phlegm, right? Like, if you have a lot of phlegm in your system, especially around allergy season, like, this is the time to really like stop it with the dairy products, because dairy produces phlegm in an instant, basically. So her husband often challenged her with that. So, but she did it. And the point of me telling you this is because we not only addressed her, we addressed her whole body. It wasn't just a matter of us addressing her immune system. We tackled the whole system. And that is why Chinese medicine is so beautiful, is because even though people often come in for their one thing, their one symptom. Like, they want to address, the one thing in their life that's often affecting the quality of their life. So many times people come to acupuncture when they have pain, because it's kind of known for pain. It's been really well studied. Oftentimes doctors refer their pain patients to acupuncturists because it does so well with pain. And then as, they come in, they realize there's so many other things that can be helped with acupuncture. So getting back to this patient, one of the reasons why her cleaning up her diet was so important is because what that does is it affords the liver the ability to do its job. So basically what we were doing, I did not put her on a detox, but we were allowing the liver to detox in a way so that it did not have to process the usual things that it had to process. So she wasn't, for example, sugar. Sugar is like basically like putting too much toilet paper into an old toilet for a liver. It literally clogs the liver and prevents it from functioning smoothly, from moving blood, and from moving qi. So cleaning up the diet was a huge aspect of her not having allergies. So while the acupuncture helped and while the herbs helped, a big thing for her was the lifestyle and getting her off some of those things that aggravated the liver, aggravated her system, created too much phlegm, so that she was able to go symptom-free once spring rolled around. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, okay, this is great and everything, hearing about this case, but what does this have to do with me? How can this help me? Well, if you're a person who, when spring rolls around, you kind of dread it, even though it's a time of the year where we're supposed to feel great. We're supposed to be having fun and the weather's getting warmer, and you're one of those people that feels miserable. Maybe it's because of allergies. Maybe it's because you notice you're more irritable in the spring. Maybe you notice more depression in the spring. Maybe you notice your menstrual cycle gets kind of wacky in the springtime, and a host of other symptoms, fatigue, irritable bowel, sleeplessness, acne, PMS. I could go on and on and on. Chances are this is an invitation for you to look at your liver and perhaps do something for your liver that will help your liver function a little more smoothly. Now, one of the things that I recommend and I prescribe often for my clients is a detox. Detoxing is one of the best things that you can do to really give your liver a break, give it the TLC that it deserves, especially during a time of spring. So when you think about it, okay, now you could argue that this happens year round, and that is true, but consider all the stuff that the liver has to process, the pollution. If you go to a workplace maybe where they use a lot of cleaning supplies or chemicals, even just the everyday body processes of processing hormones and processing all the toxins from our diet, whatever things that we're bringing in, consider that that is a really major responsibility on behalf of the liver. And then come springtime, now the liver has the responsibility of filtering out all those allergens that show up in the environment. And oftentimes, allergies are just your body's sluggish liver, because it has this responsibility of processing all of these things. It gets overwhelmed and can't keep up. So even things like eczema, like if you notice you get eczema at certain times of the year, in particular of the spring. I know a lot of people that tend to their acne or their eczema gets really, really bad in the spring. Oftentimes that is a function of a sluggish liver. So what can we do about this? Now, I mentioned detoxing. I love detoxing. The product that I use is by Standard Process. I think it's one of the best on the market, and it comes in either a 10 or a 28-day detox. And that one I love because it has all of the herbs that I would normally recommend for detoxing the liver, for nurturing the liver, for getting the liver back on its feet. And it also has ingredients to help the liver more effectively go into detox. And that product combined with, there's a whole protocol, cleaning up the diet, drinking so much water. And it comes with this really wonderful booklet where you know exactly what you need to do and what to eat. It comes with recipes and suggestions. That particular detox is my favorite, and that is the one that I do with my clients. And if that is something that you're interested in, definitely you want to get in touch with me. Standard Process is only available to practitioners. So if it's not me and it's somebody else, fine, but it is a company that I stand behind. I have been to their facility in the past. I've seen their farms. I know how big they are on quality. That is the one I recommend. If you see somebody selling it on Amazon or a place like that, I don't know if they sell supplements on eBay. It wouldn't surprise me. But if you see it being sold anywhere else besides a practitioner, I would just be suspicious personally. And it's not because I'm trying to get the business or anything else. I have just heard stories of supplements being sold on Amazon and them showing up to people's houses, not being fresh, not being what they promise. It's one thing if it's a company, like the company chooses to put their products on Amazon. Like there's a lot of supplements. There's a lot of great supplements on Amazon. It's not a matter of not buying on Amazon. I used to not recommend people buy supplements on Amazon, but that was a few years ago now. I think it's changed a lot, and I do think that the quality and the standards, and there's so many supplement companies now selling on Amazon that chances are they move through their stock pretty quickly. But things like companies like Standard Process where they have worked tirelessly to like hiring lawyers and, people to get their products off of sites like Amazon because they're so big. One of their values is really on quality. And anyway, I don't want to go on into a tangent there, but my point being is for companies such as Standard Process, and I think even Metagenics and some of the other bigger supplement companies that are they're really big on quality, I would think twice before buying anything off of Amazon. Okay, my rant is done there. What else can you do? Okay, so there's some herbs that I just really like using that you can use as a tea. You can buy, traditional medicinals, and Yogi Tea makes teas for liver detox. Oftentimes they contain ingredients like dandelion root, milk thistle. Sometimes it's a green tea blend with detox herbs in them. I think those are really, really good. You can also go to an herbalist and have them make you a formula, or you can go to an herbalist and have them get you prescribe you a formula such as Xiaoyao Song, which is a really nice, gentle herbal supplement that helps move liver qi. And then there are some foods that I think are really, really great at cleansing and detoxing. You may have even heard before that it's a good idea to start your day off by drinking water with lemon. And the reason why is because the lemon has this sour aspect to it, and the flavor associated with the liver. Now, every channel has an associated taste or a flavor. And for the liver, it's sour. So sour foods really do really well with the liver. So water with lemon water, limes, those are really good for just foods that you can take on a regular basis that will help benefit the liver. That and apple cider vinegar. Can't go wrong with those two. So warriors, I think I have talked enough today. I actually wanted this to be about a 25-minute episode, and I seem to talk a little bit longer than planned. If you have any questions about detox, if you're interested in the Standard Process detox, if you want to know more about detox, definitely get in touch with me. I am planning some really exciting programs in the future that probably will involve a detox in them. It's not official yet, so don't get too excited. Don't be jumping up and down quite yet, but I so believe in nurturing and taking care of the liver that I'm pretty passionate about this. So stay tuned for that if you want to know more. I will be talking about it on the podcast. Definitely follow me on Instagram at i.am.angela.noel. I'm sure you can just search for me. I am Angela Noel, and you'll find me just fine. And you will know what you need to know when the next program comes out. So warriors, I hope you found this episode helpful. If I sound like I was stumbling through, it is because I don't know if it's because we're approaching a new moon in a few days, but I have been so tired. So hopefully you don't hear it in my voice, but if you do, it's nothing personal. You're not boring me at all. In fact, I love podcasting. But if you have any questions about anything having to do with the liver, if you have any comments, any takeaways, please tag me on Instagram at @IamAngelaNoel. And until next time, warriors, take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Empowered Warrior podcast. It is an honor and a privilege to have you as a listener. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast and would like to help others pave their pathway to freedom, end their disempowerment and suffering, and become an empowered warrior, please share this podcast with your friends and family. Also, it is my intention to help humanity grow and evolve to their highest potential. So if you really enjoy what you're hearing, please help me spread the word by leaving a review in iTunes. Thank you again, and I am so grateful to be able to serve you in this very exciting way.